I think we'll kind of get into actually some of these slides will maybe even clear that up a little bit as we talk about distributing and building apps. So we'll jump into that section now. So AppStudio, one of these AppStudio is unique on some of the capabilities of distributing AppStudio apps is very unique. So who is before you start building your app, who is the audience for your app and what is its purpose? That's obviously, we talked about that with design, that's important, but it's also important for how you're going to distribute your app. So some things to consider: is your app going to be used by the public? Is the app going to be used by your entire organization, the whole company? Hey, this is an app that I want pretty much anyone in the company to have access to and to download and use. Or is this app really going to be limited to a number of employees, maybe a specific team, or you have a couple different teams you want to have a separate app for each of those teams? So these are things to consider when you think about how you're going to deploy apps into the public or to an organization. Other things to consider: will the app receive frequent updates? Is this just a tool at your company, or you're going to put out there and you really do not expect to update it very often? Today, you almost are with operating system updates, you are kind of forced to update your apps eventually, but is it going to receive frequent updates? That's something you need to think about. Do I need to provide automatic updates? And by automatic, I mean that they can just see that there's an update, click a button, and in an app store type of application, it's going to update the app rather than going to a site, downloading a file, reinstalling a file. This is the modern way of doing automatic updates that we get from the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Do I need to provide that? Do I want to provide that? Does my app need to have company branding? And this really refers to kind of AppStudio and some of the things there, but do I need to have company branding in my app? And will the end user of my app have an ArcGIS account, or can they have an ArcGIS account? Is that a possibility that the end user will have an ArcGIS account that they'll be able to log into to use the app? So definitely some things to consider when thinking about apps and how you're going to deploy them. Now we have, I'm going to go into these next slides. I'll go into detail on these. We're going to talk about 5 different ways to distribute your apps. The first one is what we're going to cover is called Sideload or OTA. This is, I'll go into more detail on this, but this is kind of free for most platforms to be able to use this. It does require some technical skills to use this, but it's a way to get an app onto a device. Of course, there's the app stores. This is for public apps, primarily, and it does provide automatic updates, which is nice. There's MDMs, which are secure. They're managed by your IT department, and there might be a necessity for your app depending on your organization. There's AppStudio Player, which is easy. It provides automatic updates. It does require an ArcGIS account to use, but it's really a helpful tool. And we'll go into really a lot of detail on that. And then there's a custom version of Player, which is kind of bringing your own company branding into an AppStudio Player and giving you complete control. So let's talk about sideloading in more detail. So if you don't know what the sideload, it's kind of a weird word, or OTA. This is the idea of just getting that file onto the device. Sideloading is usually through like a USB cable, just copying the file or the install file over to the device. It is OTA means over the air, meaning you're copying the file to the device over the air. So sideloading or OTA, this can be good for testing. Hey, I did a build of an app and I need to get it on device, and see how it works. Sideloading, this OTA, is great for testing. It could be an option for a small team. I don't know, maybe you don't have a problem grabbing 10 devices and bringing this file over and installing it. It's not too much of a problem. It definitely works well. It does require a build, right, to create these separate files. So it requires CloudMake. It requires a developer subscription to do that. It works well with desktop applications. This is how I think a lot of people are used to, whether that's through a USB stick or finding it on a network drive, wherever. This works well there. This could conflict with some of your organizational security policies. Do they let you install apps from, and some other sources that you're just getting a file and installing it sometimes? Some organizations will not let you, install these kind of files. So something to be aware of. How are you going to put this on the device? You're going to use that USB cable. You're going to share it on a network drive, email, over the air. OTA means over the air website. And one thing to know is that the user does not, with this mechanism, the user doesn't have an easy way to get updates. You share the app out there, you might have to, you might have to send them a message. There's a new update available. Go find the file. Go install it. It's not really easy. There's no real automatic update mechanism with this way of distributing files or distributing apps. Then there's the app stores, and really this is probably the only option if you're pushing apps to the public. As far as mobile apps for smartphones and tablets, the app stores is really probably your only option there. This does require a build, so you have to have that developer subscription. Use the CloudMake service. It does provide those automatic updates, which is really nice. Easily push out updates. It requires a developer account, not just an Esri developer account. It requires those Apple or Google developer accounts to do that. And it's an involved process. Be aware that it's an involved process of certificates, store requirements, review processes from these different app stores that you publish to. And you'll have less control of that availability, right? They can find something wrong with your app, and they can cut it off from being available, or they can hold up a release. So you do have less control. But obviously, going to get it to a wider audience, these are things we work with to do that. Then there's mobile device management systems. You kind of think of these as your own company's private app store. Not everyone uses. Some of you probably have no idea what this is or using, but this is large enterprises or organizations often use mobile device management systems to push apps out to company devices. So this is good for larger enterprise deployments or larger organizations. If you're using AppStudio with this, it is going to require that you have that separate build to push these out, a separate build of your app. So it does require that CloudMake. It requires third-party software, things like AirWatch or Zen Mobile, or some of these other MDM software out there. So it can be costly. But again, that's probably not something that your department's worried about. This is probably something the IT department in general is going to be doing, because these are usually managed by the IT department. But what's great is it does provide secure and easy deployment of apps, because rather than someone downloading an app, you can actually, with some of these, you can actually push apps out to devices, and therefore get some of those automatic updates. We do have some new capabilities coming in our next release with this that work with some of these MDMs, so that you could actually do things like push, when people log into your app, you can actually automatically direct them to your portal URL by setting an app configuration in the MDM and pushing that to the device. So these are, we do hear people have requirements for these, but it is definitely a more complicated process to use them, but there are some good benefits. Then we have AppStudio Player. AppStudio Player is really great for a team of workers, and also maybe even up to larger enterprise deployments. Something, if you can use AppStudio Player to distribute your apps, it does require that ArcGIS account, but there's no requirement to have a developer subscription. There's no requirement to have that CloudMake service. Everyone that does use that builds the apps is going to require that ArcGIS account, the people building the apps and the people using the apps that are going to be running them. This is easy, so it is very quick and easy to use this. So they simply download the player from the app stores. I forgot to delete something. This managed by IT department should not be there. Okay, cross that out. I will cross that out later. It is not managed by the IT department, usually. It's usually managed by the person building the app or the GIS department or whoever is kind of using AppStudio. So the apps that they get is managed by the creators. It provides, a secure and easy way to deploy your apps because you know who's logging in, you know what apps they have access to. You can provide automatic updates as well because in AppStudio Player, if there's an update to the app, they'll get a notification and you click a button and it boom installs the new version of that app. And it's easy, it's really easy. We're gonna go do an exercise on this later and see a demo to provide some company branding and restrict kind of which apps they have, curate the number of apps that they see. It's really easy to do that with AppStudio Player. The last way to distribute apps is a custom version of Player. So this is you take our template for AppStudio Player and AppStudio Desktop, you customize that. Maybe you put all your company branding on it. You maybe add a little bit of functionality if you like, maybe change the look and feel, and you push that out there. This is great for a large team or an enterprise deployment where it's important to have that look and feel. It does require some developer skills to do this, but it gives you complete control over that branding. It will also require you to get this out onto those devices. So you might be sideloading this custom version of Player, or you might be putting it into an MDM. In some cases, I guess you could put it into a public app store or a company app store of sorts to deploy that. But you do need to get the install and build it and push it out to the devices. And then it also provides automatic updates as well, because when you create new apps in your and share them with others, they are going to run it inside of this Player application, but it's going to be a custom Player application that they've deployed to their organization. All right, man, hopefully that didn't seem overly complicated, but I just want to think we have options, and it's actually really cool with AppStudio. So we've got, I don't know, many different options for deploying apps and whatever's going to fit you best. So licensing wise, with these different options, the side loading, the app stores, the MDM, the custom Player, those all do require that AppStudio developer license, developer edition license. If you're just using the standard Player from the store, you don't need the developer edition. You are just using the AppStudio license. And so again, those developer edition license comes with the developer subscription, and the creator and GIS professional can do that AppStudio license. All right, well, now I'll talk a little more detail on some of what goes into side loading and OTA and CloudMake. And then we'll see a demo from Tina. So we haven't really demoed CloudMake, and you'll see a demo of it in a little bit, but CloudMake is this really cool capability and this ability to create your install files in the cloud. So you're just in one development environment, AppStudio Desktop. You can be developing on a Mac, you can be developing on Windows or even Linux, and really target all these different platforms. So let's just give you a diagram of how it works. So I'm a user. I've got AppStudio on my machine, AppStudio Desktop. I'm building apps. They're looking great, and now I want to create some files that are going to maybe push to the app stores, maybe going to be side loaded, maybe put on different devices in different ways. Well, how do I do that? I upload my app. I use the upload tool in AppStudio Desktop, and I upload my app or app, you can call it an app project, to my ArcGIS organization. So I upload it to my ArcGIS organization. If I'm doing CloudMake, it actually will be uploading it to ArcGIS Online. So upload it to my ArcGIS organization, and then I use the CloudMake tool inside of AppStudio Desktop to initiate a CloudMake. We have a number of servers out there. Think of these are really are kind of like part of ArcGIS Online. These servers out there, and they spin up and they grab that project and they create these install binaries. They create an IPA for Apple products, APK for Android, EXE for Windows, a .run file for Linux, and a DMG for Mac. but you can create all these for you in the cloud, and they get stored in your account, and then you would simply download those to your machine, the individual files, and then go forward and do what you need to do with those, whether that's put them directly on a device, whether that's publish them to a store, provide them to your IT department as part of the MDM. It's kind of you're open to do many things at that point. So that's kind of the conceptual idea of this. It's very powerful. It's very unique to AppStudio, and what's cool, I mean, it is literally machines running. One example is you're not allowed to virtualize or in a virtual environment to create a virtual machine of a Mac. So we have separate Mac machines running, waiting to receive these calls and create the builds for these files. So it's and then of course we have machines kind of running in different states, ready to create these different builds when you initiate these. All right, so side loading or the OTA method. This is really about just, side loading is, as I mentioned, this is taking a file and pushing it to the device, typically from a USB cable, and then you open up a file system, the file system on your device, and you install that as far as Android that's concerned. So one tip is, if you're going to do this, many Android devices, especially the first time you ever do something like this, it'll require that you turn on, it's often called install from unknown sources. It's basically saying, hey, I'm getting an app, I'm installing it not from the Play Store. So that's a common case with Android products. With Apple, it will require that you use something like Xcode, their development tools on a Mac, or third-party software to do something similar where you're going to push the app directly onto the device. Again, it doesn't scale very well because you're really just pushing onto individual devices. And then we have this idea of the OTA installation. This is a tool that we actually include with AppStudio. This allows you to give someone a link, and they can download over the air, through the internet, an app onto their device and install it. Again, Android, you have to do that unknown sources, and in iOS, you have to go through and trust the certificate it's been signed with. So these have to be, even though you're doing this over the air through these tools from Esri, if you're doing it with iOS, it does have to be signed with a specific enterprise certificate to do that. Again, this isn't a common thing that people are doing with iOS, but it is possible. This is just a little bit of a demonstration of signing in, and you'll see being able to just install the file from a location, and the app will get installed on your device. So it's kind of like a little mini app store. Really good for pushing apps and onto devices and testing that final native build of the app. All right, I think we've all heard enough of me talking today, and I think it's time that we turn some time over to Tina, who gave some great demos on the first day, and Tina is going to do a demo of CloudMake and of the over-the-air installation tool. So I will stop sharing, and Tina, if you want to share your screen now.
Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yep, we can see it.
Oh, okay, cool. So now I'm going to do a demo of using CloudMake to create app installation file for the National Park Trails app that we create on Tuesday. So first, I will select the National Park Trails app, and I'm going to click on the settings tool in the set panel. And I will navigate to the platforms Android section. So in order to create an app installation APK file for Android, you need to provide a package name, and it looks like this, com.py. company name.app name. So now I'm going to give my app a package name for the APK. I will write com.azure National Park Trails. If you wish to publish your app to the Google Play Store, you also need to sign the package by providing the Keystore file and key alias in here. For the iOS, as Chris mentioned before, you do need to have a developer certificate from the Apple to build an app installation files. Once you have got a developer certificate, you need to provide your provisioning file and certificate P12 file in here. Since my organization have already set my dev environment for me, I have an Azure developer certificate, so I'm not going to demo in here. Now I'm going to apply the changes and upload my app to ArcGIS Online. So once the app has been uploaded, I'm going to click on the Make tool in the Set panel. And I will select the Cloud Make in here. Here you can choose your preferred platforms. I already choose the Android 64-bit and iOS. These are the two platforms that I want to create my app installation files. I'm going to click on the Analyze Build button. As you can see, my Android package name is here. For iOS, I have a Azure Enterprise certificate already. So I'm going to request a build. What we does in here behind the scene is our CloudMake service is creating the app installation files for us. Okay, based on the speed of the internet, it will take a few minutes. So as you can see, my Android build starting first. Once the build has been succeed, you're going to receive an email with, oh, I already have, okay, this one already exists. So maybe I will do another build with another account. So I log into another account in here and I have created this with another account. So same thing, I will first go to the settings and platform to provide a package name. For this app, and I'm going to upload my app, update it. So now the app has been updated. Let me do a make tool again. I'm going to select the Cloud Make And Android and iOS. I don't have a certificate for iOS. I'm going to request a build. Hopefully this time my CloudMake will succeed. All right, nice. So now I'm going to go to the AppStudio over the Air installation, and I'm going to sign in with my ArcGIS online account. I'm going to choose this Android button at the bottom. Here I can find my app installation file. Since I don't have an Android device with me, I'm going to share my APK to Chris. It will generate a download URL that Chris will receive, and it is valid in 30 minutes.
So that's important. So this app is not for, this link is not for long-term giving this to people they're going to install over and over. This is valid for 30 minutes. It's to get really more for testing, get it onto a device quickly.
Yeah, another thing I want to mention here is besides for over-the-air installation, we also store all of our app installation files in ArcGIS Online. So now I'm going to sign in to my ArcGIS Online account. And you can find your app installation file under the Content tab and My Apps folder. You can also download your APK in here and further distribute your app. So Chris, did you get the email that I sent it to you?
Let me check. Yeah, so I'm going to share my phone now. So if you want to stop sharing,
Sounds
Tina,
good.
we'll hope. We're going to hope I don't get any sketchy text messages here while I share my phone with everyone. All right, let's share this. All right, so there's my Android phone. I'm going to click and I got a message here from Tina, and there's that link. I'm going to copy that link and open it in my web browser here. And when I do that, it says it's giving me that APK to download. So she just sent me a link. It's downloading that APK. I think I've probably got faster internet at my house than Tina. Well, let's hope. Maybe not. There. It downloaded and it says, do you want to install this application? I've already on my device said yes, I can install from unknown sources. So on my Android device, it's installing this separate binary that she created, and I'll say open. Now I have the National Parks Trails app here on my Android device. That APK file that she just did a build of in the cloud, and then sent me the link to download it onto my device. So very cool. And I will stop sharing. Whoop, and go back to you, Tina.
So should I do the demo for the custom profile now?
No, we will do that in a little bit.
Okay, then that's all I have for the
yeah.
Cloud Make.
So let's see here. Share my screen. All right. See my screen again. So thank you, Tina. So that was the demonstration of using the Cloud Make, and it is really uploading your app to your organization, asking the Cloud Make service to do a build, and then you can download it. As we showed the OTA website, but many people will just grab it. The install builds are just stored as an item, as we saw in ArcGIS, in your ArcGIS online account. And then you can install those. And I think we've had some people ask in the chat and things about, can you show enterprise and how does this work? So those, you do need to build, you do that Cloud Make service, you are building that against ArcGIS Online, but those separate installs you create can be pointing to, when they get installed on devices, can be using ArcGIS Enterprise as what you're logging into with the individual apps. And then, we've also been showing sharing, logging in and sharing apps from AppStudio Desktop into ArcGIS Online. You can log into your ArcGIS Enterprise account from AppStudio Desktop. This will allow you to share your app into into your ArcGIS Enterprise and share it with others as just an item there. The caveat there is that you can't initiate the build from there. Think about it is that our Cloud Make services can't reach into your private enterprise. They can't reach into your company's machine and pull this stuff out. That's a security issue, and so we don't allow you to do that. But you can use Player to share and run and log into using Player. Log into your ArcGIS Enterprise to access these apps. And if you're unfamiliar with ArcGIS Enterprise, think of it as your version of ArcGIS Online, but running on your own company's hardware. Also referred to often as portal or portal and server combination. The product itself is ArcGIS Enterprise. All right, just going to clear a little bit of that up. We did hear we did see some comments on it in the chat. So that's the process of a Cloud Make, and then also deploying to a device. Let's talk about publishing to app stores. So this is part, I'm going to go through some details, some slides on what Apple requires and what Google requires to publish to app stores. Think of this really as a document you can come back to. It's not even every bit of detail, but a guide that you can come back to and use later. I don't expect you to remember all these steps now, but again, we'll post these slides, keep them, refer back to them, and then we have other documentation on this process as well. But just to give you an idea of what is required, because I think many of you have not done this, have not published these app stores, but what is required. So first, we'll talk about building and publishing to the Google Play Store, what you need. You'll need an app that can be distributed in the Google Play Store. It needs to be signed. So you need to sign your app. To do this, you're gonna have to have access to that Google Play Store. You're gonna have to sign up for a Google developer account, which we talked about before, is $25, and you're gonna have to create a Keystore file. This is a unique certificate that you're gonna create this yourself. Actually, I do say that they now have an option. There's a second option that you can have Google manage your key. You still create the Keystore, but they manage part of this signing for you. But for the sake of this, we're going to talk about using the Keystore and signing it yourself. Okay, to create that Keystore file, there's a couple different ways. One, you can install Android Studio, which you can install on any really Mac or PC or whatever. And there's a tool there for creating a new Keystore file. And you give it the Keystore file. You give it a name. You give it a name and a passphrase and we call it alias, which I would say is like a username, and then a password along with that. And it's actually a little encrypted file. It's encrypted that you can't kind of open it up unless you have this username and password to open it. And you keep this as yours, and you save it, and you don't lose it. You don't forget the password, and you keep it safe. and you save it in multiple places. I always tell people, save it locally, save it on a shared drive, save it in a hard drive, save it online somewhere. Because if you lose these, it could stop you from being able to update your app in the Play Store. So make sure you keep this little certificate, this Keystore. I call it a self certificate. Another tool, if you want to make one of these, is a tool called Keystore Explorer. It's a free tool. It's actually a little easier to use that tool to create one of these Keystore files. Once you have this Keystore file, you're going to include it with your build when you do a CloudMake build of your Android app. Another thing you're going to need is you're going to need a package name. And Apple, they call it a bundle ID, and Android, they call it a package name. We typically, it's this reversed URL. Like, so if I had my Palm Springs app I created as an Esri user, it'd be com.esri.palmspringsmaptour. That would be, so the common way that both Android and Google, or that both Google and Apple use, is this reverse URL name. So com.esri.collector is what we call our collector app. It's just a unique name that's given to the app to identify it from any other app out there. So again, I upload that Keystore file, the username or the alias, the password, give it that name, and I do a build of it with our CloudMake services then, and I'm going to get back an APK file that's signed, because Apple or Google makes you have a signed file. You can actually create these APK files that are unsigned, but to upload it to the Play Store, it has to be signed. Then again, sign up and sign into that Google Play Store account. You're going to create a new listing for your app. You're going to have to fill out a lot of information, provide a number of screenshots, information about where can this app be distributed, what type of content does it have, is it available for young people, things like that. So you have to create some screenshots. You'll have to create screenshots for phone. If you want to work on a tablet, you'll have to create kind of two sets of screenshots for smaller tablets, called like 7-inch or 10-inch tablets. And I say beware that you will hit publish and it will probably go live in 2 hours. Except right now, during this, we've noticed that during the COVID virus, pandemic, that it's taking longer. I don't know if they've probably have less staff working at the time or availability, but it's taking much longer to get these. By much longer, we're talking hours to a day, it seems like, to get these approved, but then it will be live. Another note is that if you're doing this for the first time, it will probably take you longer than you think to publish these apps to the different app stores. It'll probably take you longer than you think that first time to create all the content, to get all the the text looking good, to get those images looking good. I'm not saying it won't be worth it, because we can get great benefits from it, but it can often take a while. So if you have a deadline, hey, we got to get this out on Friday. This app, we told our boss it's going to be published on Friday. Don't start creating don't start going through this process Thursday afternoon, because it might, especially your first time. All right, building for the Apple App Store is similar, but a little, I'd say a little more complex, and a little different. A few steps. You will need to get that, remember that developer account, the individual or an enterprise account from Apple. You'll need to create a certificate. The way that I know to create a certificate that I've seen is that you actually create what's called a CSR file on a Mac. There's a tool you use on your Mac to create this CSR file, which is you upload the CSR, the certificate request file, signing request file to developer.apple.com, and they'll give you back a .cer certificate file. You will then export that into your local machine as a P12 file into your keychain. Again, I say this gets a little complex, but this is what you need to do. So you'll have to export that and again give that P12 file. It's making a kind of a portable version of your certificate. So once you get the P12 file, you will also you'll have that locally, but you also need to create a bundle ID. This is that reverse URL name. So you have to create a bundle ID in your Apple developer portal and say, okay, I'm about to upload an app. The app's name is, you know, Palm Springs Map Tour, and the bundle ID is com.esri.Palm Springs Map Tour, and this is the certificate it's going to use. So that certificate's still stored in your developer portal. This is a certificate it's going to use. I've got another version on my local machine that I exported as a P12 certificate, portable certificate file, but you're kind of making a connection there. From there, it's going to say, okay, you've made that connection. You've said that you're going to upload this app with this reverse URL name to it, and from there you need to download a provisioning profile. This is a kind of, I think it was a file that's saying, yes, there's an app called this, and there's a certificate it's going to point to called this. There might be some more information in there, like what some specific services, Apple services it might have access to, but basically you need to download this provisioning profile file. It's just a file you download onto your device. And then in AppStudio Desktop, you provide that provisioning profile, and you provide that P12 certificate and the bundle ID name, and you create a build in CloudMake using those. And right about now, you're probably thinking, wow, yeah, AppStudio Player sounds like a nice way to distribute apps if I've got to go through this to push apps out to the App Store. But this is required. And again, the first time it's a little complex. It gets easier as it goes. This is what's required to publish apps to the Apple App Store. We'll do the build in our CloudMake. That's getting signed with that certificate we created. And now we do need a Mac for this point, because we need to upload that to the Apple App Store Connect, or their developer portal. There's a thing called Application Loader, an app that was included in Xcode. It was removed at Xcode 11. You can actually install older versions of Xcode and use this Application Loader to upstore to your app. And there's a tool that I really just found, because we haven't been using this, but I just found it, called Transporter. It's in the Mac App Store. It's built by Apple, and it allows you to upload those items into your account. And we're going to test this afternoon. But that's probably the easiest way to get your app up into the App Store, is using this Transporter application from the Mac App Store. There's also, I should say, or command line. There's also, you can use a command line. From a Mac, you can use command line to push it up. So we can build apps for iOS and on a Windows machine, but to actually upload them and get them into the App Store, it does require a Mac to do that. The tools that you use do require a Mac. I think Apple wants to sell Macs, so they require that piece. If you don't have a Mac, if you don't have a Mac at your company, you're all Windows or something, I suggest, you know, this is really a short, small part that you actually do this part. It doesn't take long. Maybe you can borrow a Mac from home, your sister's Mac, someone else that has one, and just to upload that. I wouldn't want someone to have to buy a Mac just to complete this part, but it is required that you have one. You go to App Store Connect, and you're going to, just like Android, you're going to build out a listing for your app. Create good screenshots. It's going to ask for, and this changes every couple, probably changes once, twice a year, the screenshots that they require. They require different sizes. They're going to require some phone sizes and some tablet sizes. They'll often require an iPad 12.9, like the big giant iPads. Many people don't have those. A tip that I'm going to give you is to use if you have that Mac, use the device simulator tool in Xcode, and then through AppStudio, we have a way that connects into that device simulator, and you can create some screenshots using that of different sized devices. Another thing to be aware is this will take longer than Google to get approval. Probably it used to be a couple of weeks. Now it's about 2 days, maybe more. That first time it takes longer, and they're very strict and they're very thorough in their testing of apps. So even Esri, we have had multiple apps get rejected for various reasons. We have to go back and fix things here and there. So there are reasons. You be prepared that first time to get rejected, because as I mentioned before, it'll probably take longer than you think that first time to get something up there. All right. That's what I have for a quick run through. Again, these are here for your reference to kind of go back when you actually go through this process if you're going to go to these public app stores. But this will gives you an idea of what's involved in pushing these apps out. Now we're going to talk about distributing apps with AppStudio Player. We talked about this already, but then we're going to talk about custom profiles. So distributing apps with AppStudio Player, again, we build our apps on our desktop. We're going to save it to our ArcGIS organization. This could be ArcGIS Online, or this can be, Enterprise. Save it there. And we're going to test it on multiple devices. Maybe have someone else in our organization test it using Player. It's really great application to testing apps. And traditionally, people would then, do a build in the cloud and push those apps out to the Google App Store and Google Play Store to get the app into the hands of others, right? That almost seemed like the only way to do it. Well, with AppStudio Player, we kind of change it. So you publish your organization. You still do the testing like you did before, but now instead of going to those app stores, we're going to push your apps to users who are using AppStudio Player. And that can be different teams, it can be different groups of users, but they are logging in. This is really for organizations. They are logging into the app through your organization. And think of all the different things you can push to them. You can push not just simple maps, you push field operation, data collection information, build, if you're doing some type of analysis, the output of that analysis, if you create some type of dashboard, you can push that out as well. So there's lots of different things from our organization that we can push out to our users. And we've made it some enhancements in the last release, and we're actually improving it in a release that comes out here in June for something called custom profiles in AppStudio Player. So this makes it a better experience to use AppStudio Player as a tool for running apps. So it's a new way to quickly customize your AppStudio Player to give them for the admin or the person creating the apps to kind of give control and give a tailored experience and provide that using a link that they can open, and then open AppStudio Player with those capabilities. It also it allows you to show not only those AppStudio apps, but you can actually include web apps and run those inside of Player as well. So if you've got a couple apps that are web apps that look good on a mobile device, you can include those and run those inside of Player as well. And of course, we can control the appearance of AppStudio Player by adding some nice tags to our to the group. So how do we do this? Well, one is that we need to create a group in ArcGIS Online or Enterprise, and with that group, we need to add some things like a thumbnail, a description to the group. When we add this thumbnail and description to this group, and then open up this custom profile that's pointing to that group, those come alive inside of our app just automatically, so that they'll have in the about, they'll have a thumbnail, they'll have a nice description. You can describe what this app does to those users. We then share native apps into that, native apps or web apps into that group. So just as you share any other item in ArcGIS Online into a group, and then invite people into that group, that's how we share our native apps built with AppStudio. When we share those into the group, they then come alive. So here we've got on the left there, you see I've shared in my ArcGIS organization, I've shared some apps, and those just come alive, and they'll see them in there when they've clicked on a custom profile in AppStudio Player. And we have, in this case, we have native apps, but on the far right there, those are some web apps that can open and run a web app as well inside of Player. And then we want to make it kind of look maybe like our company's organization. We want to give it a specific color. We have AppStudio Player primarily white and purple. What if we want it to be blue or orange or a different color? We want to give it the AppStudio Player a different title, so they know, hey, this is for my department. This is for my public works department. I want to have a specific, title that's showing the apps just for that department. You can provide a feedback URL and even the type of language the AppStudio Player will run in. So if you want to kind of force AppStudio Player to run in a specific language, you can actually push that as a tag. So the way we do that is in our ArcGIS Online or Enterprise, in that group, we'll edit the tag. There's a little tag section there highlighted, and you just give it a specific tag that is going to enable this when they log in. And then those tags do things like change the app title, the brand color, the language that they're running in, as well as the feedback URL. So if you have a specific, or sorry, feedback email. So you have a specific email that when they provide feedback, we could change that easily. To get people to open these apps right now inside and as a custom profile, you're gonna have to send them a specific link. And the link, as you can kind of see here, highlighted in purple, where you can see here highlighted in purple is appstudio.arcgis.com, and then question mark group ID equals, and then you're going to give it a unique ID. That unique ID, when you open up your group in ArcGIS Online, up at the top in the URL, you'll see a unique bunch of letters and numbers. That is your group ID. Every item has an ID. Every group has a specific ID. So you give it that group ID, and you send that to someone. They open it up, and they will now be in. They will now be in that custom profile. I will say at the next version of AppStudio, we're actually making some changes, or we're still going to have this, but we're also going to have the ability that you're going to, when you sign into an app with a username and login, if some custom profiles have been kind of shared with you in groups, there'll be an option just to switch to that custom profile from a pick list. All right. Now with that, I'm going to turn it back to Tina, who's going to show us and go through this process of creating a custom profile for an app and deploying that to an app. So I'll stop sharing and turn over to Tina.
Thank you, Chris. Let me share my screen now. Okay. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
All right, cool. So as Chris mentioned before, you can tap or click on an app link to open Player with a custom profile. So now I have 2 links in my notes. I'm going to tap on the top app link that I've created before. As you can see now, it opens a Player with a COVID-19 custom profile. The branding color of my custom profile is red, and the language of the Player is opened in French by default. I also have a few COVID-19 related native apps and the web apps that I have created. So for example, I have configured a quick report template with the COVID-19 survey content. You might notice that my quick report template language also changed to French. This is because it detects the player's language. I also have a hospital finder app that I configured with the map viewer template. It allows me to find the hospitals that are near me. So under this web apps tab, we also support for web apps such as Story Map, Dashboard, and Web Experience and Survey 123. Now I'm just going to open this COVID 2019 situation dashboard. As you can see, the browser view of in the Player branding color also changed to the red that I've configured for the custom profile. So now I'm going to show you how I create this COVID-19 custom profile. It is very easy. You will need to first create a group. Just to save some time, I have already created a COVID-19 demo group, which includes a few web apps and some AppStudio native apps. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, and I'm going to move my phone in here. So first, you can so for the group ID, you can find it in the URL here. I have sent my group ID to my device, which is the second app link in my notes. Before I do any customization for the custom profile, I'm just going to tap on the link. As you can see, this custom profile includes the content that I have included in my group. I have the same web apps and native apps in here. And right now, by default, the branding of the player is the default player's branding. Now I'm going to start to add a brand color tag for the group. And I'm going to save it. I will go back to my link to tap on it to open my custom profile again. As you can see now, the branding color has changed to the color that I have defined in this tag. Now I'm going to add other tags in my group. I'm going to add an app title, COVID-19. Notice right now the title is the group title COVID-19 demo, since I have added app tags in here, COVID-19. I'm going to open the player again. The title now changed to COVID-19. Now I'm going to add another tag, my language. I want to open player in French by default. And also I will add the feedback email tag. So I have added two more tags for the player. The first one is the language. Now, as you can see, the player changed to French and the email address changed to the one that I have configured in my tag. This is an about page for the player. You can add the descriptions for your custom profile by editing the thumbnail in here and add the summary and the description in here. I'm going to copy the summary, save, and the description for the group. Okay, now I will go back to my phone and open the link to refresh the custom profile. As you can see now, the about page has been changed to the group summary and description I have added in here. If you wish to remove the custom profile, you can tap on the button in here. Now my player changed back to the default player that you downloaded from the App Store. I have created an exercise in here, and now you guys can.
I think we're gonna do that at the end, Tina.
Oh,
I think we'll
okay.
move on. Yeah, for sake of time, we're gonna we'll include that with they can do that exercise when they do the other exercise.
All right, then that's all I have for the demo of this custom profile.
Thank you.
Let me stop sharing my screen.
All right. So thank you, Tina. So it shows the power. It's really easy to customize that capability to have your own custom version of AppStudio. And you can imagine, or an own custom version of Player. You can imagine if you're doing that, you might have a different group for different teams. The public works department, the water, trash if you're an organization, or different teams in your company. You just want to give them a specific set of tools to work with. You create a specific profile, and they can click on that and go. I'm looking at the time now. Erwin's got some great content, and I think we went a little longer on this first part than I thought. So we're going to take just a quick 3-minute break. People get a drink, get up, walk around, do what they need to do. Then we'll come back with Erwin. He's going to talk about, we're going to get into code a little bit. We're going to talk about App Creator. We're going to have an exercise. We want to give time that you can complete maybe some of the exercise while we're here, and we'll hang out longer than 12 o'clock like we did last time. But we'll hang out for a while. You can ask questions during the exercise, as well as Tina has an exercise, as she mentioned, in the folder as well, that for doing that custom profile. So if you want to do it yourself, create a custom profile to distribute an app in AppStudio Player, you can do that as well. So again, we'll take about just 3 minutes. Let everyone stand up, walk around, let our presenters do the same, and then Erwin will get started. All right.
Regarding the custom profile, I shared the link to the COVID-19 custom profile. If you can get that over to your phone, and you can test it right now to your phone that has an AppStudio Player install.
Cool. Yeah, you will have to have the latest version of AppStudio Player, 4.2.
Right, 4.2, yeah.
4.2 from the App Store.